What's up, guys? Hassel Cattle Company is the best damn Wagyu beef you can get in the world, and you can get it for 10% off when you use the code DNVR. They call it the blue-collar Wagyu because it's affordable for everyone, and it's just as delicious as you could imagine. So marbly, so many different options. They've got the smoked sausage, the New York strip, the beef bacon, the Wagyu Franks, 2 different jerky flavors, their hamburger, one Food Network's Northeast Burger Jam. Not only do we love their beef, but the whole country loves their beef, and you can get it shipped to you anywhere in the United States. So check them out, hasslecattlecompany.com. That's HASSELL cattlecompany.com. And don't forget to use that code DNVR10 for 10% off your order.
Number one for the one and only DNVR. 2 goes out to Zach, Mace, RK, and the bar. 3 for Mr. B in that old trophy case. Number 4, we're still waiting for you. Bring on the case. Out on the field, a mile high, Broncos win is our style. Couple with a breakfast crew and a friendly orange and blue to the bitter end. Come and join us, DNVR. We are DNVR.
We are DNVR, and welcome into the DNVR Broncos podcast presented by MSU Denver Online. Make sure you check out MSU Denver Online and get in on all that they have to offer over there. Time and time again, one thing that will protect you against economic downturns is an education allowing you to adapt into varying careers. So make sure you check out MSU Denver Online and get in on their 750 classes, 40 plus online and hybrid programs, rigorous and affordable programs taught by professors who bring the real world into the classroom. And when you use the code DNVR Sports when you sign up, you can get rid of all of your application fees, which of course is always a pain when you're going around and looking for school. So check out MSU Denver Online and use that code DNVR Sports.
My boy, Ryan, what is going on? Ryan, I have some big news for you. This will be my last show ever because I owned $1 million in GameStop stock yesterday morning. So I'm good. Peace out.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
Who would ever invest in GameStop right now?
Well, people who have all the power.
Apparently.
So yeah, that was one hell of, I was actually going to say we should do like a buy or sell stock themed show today. And if there was one stock I would be parroting, it would be Matthew Stafford to the Broncos. I would be saying buy on that.
Like
I guess
buy, like buy, or
Jesus.
like buy.
Like buy, to the moon, as they say in the biz. You actually can buy stock in that kind of. You can buy it at DraftKings Sportsbook at plus 500, which they don't you don't normally get to do that on stocks. You can get it at plus 500 right now. Let me make sure. So you never know when there's some overnight movement. So let's actually make sure that it's still there at plus 500. Off-season specials.
And also let us know where that ranks, Ryan, in terms of other teams.
Yeah, so right now at DraftKings Sportsbook, the Broncos rank second at plus 500 to acquire Matthew Stafford.
Second.
Just behind the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the Colts are a heavy favorite here. They're plus 250. So they're saying it's twice as likely for them to end for Matthew Stafford to end up with the Colts than the Broncos.
And why is that? Is that because, he can buy just as similar of a house in Indianapolis for a similar price and Denver's a little more expensive? Or, I mean, why are the Colts the favorites? Because that's what I always hear is the Colts are the favorites and followed by some teams, including the Broncos.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it has something to do with what they're willing to trade or what they could trade.
Can't trade the 9th pick. The Colts
they cannot
don't have that.
Trade the 9th pick. I don't know if the Broncos want to trade the 9th pick. And man, what a win it would be, in my opinion, if they're able to make this trade without including the 9th pick, even though not a lot of people have brought it up as the compensation. But I think that's what the compensation, at least from a Lions perspective, they want it to be. Although I'll say this, as soon as they said mutual parting of ways, I think they really cut off their ability to get a first-round pick in this deal. So I think the Broncos have a chance to make this deal without including a second-round pick, or without including a first-round pick. Obviously, we talked about it. Peter King mentioned 2 seconds or a second and Drew Lock. If I'm the Lions, I want Drew Lock in the deal. I think that it gives them a nice little opportunity on a low-risk, high-reward play at quarterback. And if I were them, that's the deal I would want. Drew Lock, to me, is kind of the perfect quarterback for them. If the Broncos are going to try and make a trade for Matthew Stafford, the Lions can acquire Drew Lock and say, hey, if he booms, then we just really killed the Broncos in that trade. If he busts, we're fine. We'll just get a new quarterback next year. So, I think that this deal is going to go down soon. And that is what we've been hearing from all the sources around the league. Adam Schefter saying the Lions want to get this done as soon as possible. And as we know, I'm going on a flight on Friday morning. Actually, a little Friday afternoon, 1 o'clock. Set your timers. That's when I think the deal is going to go down. I will say it could end up happening sooner than that. I think that the talks are going on as we speak. And so if there's a bidding war going on, it could be right now. And we'll see who comes out on the right side of it.
Yeah, and Ryan, this could be a thing where, let's say they're going back between second-round picks, Drew Lock, third-round picks, and the Broncos just say, we want this thing over with. We want to make sure that Matthew Stafford's our guy. They throw out the 9th pick, Ryan. This thing will get done today. It'll get done yesterday. It'll get done Friday at 1:10 p.m., right when you're in the air, before you have that Southwest Wi-Fi. And this is something where, of course, the Lions want to get this done. They want to see exactly what they're going to be dealing with, what chips they're going to have in the draft in order to get a Justin Fields, a Zach Wilson, move up in the first round to get their quarterback. And it makes sense for the team that acquires Matthew Stafford because, Ryan, we're talking quarterback if the Broncos don't get Matthew Stafford. It's not like the Broncos don't get Matthew Stafford and it's Drew Lock all the way. No, there's still other quarterbacks to talk about, from Deshaun Watsons of the world to also, some veteran hedges, a Jameis Winston that they could bring in. So the teams want to get established in what they're doing. But Ryan, to me, isn't this a concern for the Broncos compared to other teams? Because the Broncos GM, George Payton, is still figuring out who his coaching staff is, who he has on this roster. Like I said yesterday, when we talked to him a week ago, he said he would have their offseason plan figured out in a couple of weeks from now. Now it's fast forward just 1 week to where he needs to make a decision on his most important position.
Yeah, I guess. You'd like to have everything in place. I assume he's already watched the film on Drew Lock, or else, what are we doing here? I assume that was the first thing he did on his first day on the job after the, interviews and whatnot is, okay. Honestly, he probably should have watched the tape before he even sat down for an interview with the Broncos. So he knew what he was going to say. So he should be prepared to make a decision on Drew Lock. And based on the tea leaves, I would say that decision is not favorable towards Drew Lock. Just that, Adam Schefter reporting yesterday that the Broncos will be in on the deal. Now, George Payton already said we'll be in on every deal. So if it doesn't end up happening, he can sit down with Drew and say, hey, man, this is my job. I have to find out what it takes. I believe in you. I think that you have tons of potential. But when there's an opportunity that arises, I have to explore it. That's my job. The same way that it's your job to keep improving, so I don't have to do this. But I think that that the Broncos want to upgrade the position, and Matthew Stafford is an upgrade at the position.
So Ryan, this will be the first ball to drop in the entire offseason with quarterback moves. And like we talked about yesterday, there could be up to 18 teams, 2/3 of the league, making a change at quarterback. So how should the Broncos and George Paton handle this? And Ryan, you're the perfect person to ask for this, because I don't think anyone likes Deshaun Watson to Denver more than you. We all love it, but you are leading that charge. And if you make a play for Matthew Stafford, you're going to have to decide that before you decide when you're making the move on Deshaun Watson, because the Texans, they don't want to move on from Deshaun Watson. It seems like they're going to be forced to do that, but they're probably going to take their time to try to convince Deshaun Watson, hire a head coach, try to get that head coach to convince Deshaun Watson. So I think it's pretty safe to say that a Deshaun Watson deal will happen after a Matthew Stafford deal. So you're George Paton, and you want to be in on both of those guys, but knowing that Matthew Stafford is going first, how do you handle this? I mean, do you take the ultimate risk? Let's say you have a deal with the Lions in place right now, and you say, I just need a little bit to think about it. Do you take the ultimate risk on passing up on Matthew Stafford in order to be in on the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes?
No.
Okay.
No.
Wow. That was quick.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that. Wow. Apparently you don't like Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I love Deshaun Watson. I don't think Deshaun Watson loves me back. Yeah, and sometimes
I'm
you just
sorry.
it hurts, But as you know, we like to talk relationships on this show, and you can only give someone your unconditional love for so long when that love is not returned. Relationships have to be a 50-50 proposition. So I've been expressing my love for Deshaun, going above and beyond to try and take our relationship to the next step with him moving to my city, and eventually you have to say, like, there must be someone else, and I think there is someone else when it comes to Deshaun. So,
and you're settling for Matthew S, as he would be called on The Bachelor.
Yeah, Matthew S does look like he would be on The Bachelor, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's like a week 3 cut.
Okay.
He makes it through the first couple of weeks. And
you get some kisses with him.
What I would say is, let's say you make the trade for Matthew Stafford. Let's get weird on the podcast here.
I know where we're going.
You make the trade for Matthew Stafford. You didn't have to include a first-round pick. That's an important part of this.
Mm-hmm.
And heck, 2 weeks from now, Deshaun Watson says, I went to Miami, it sucked. I went to New York, it sucked. But man, that Denver, that is a good old place. Send me to Denver. Well, now you have an additional chip in the trade, and it's a Matthew Stafford. So in the very unlikely scenario that Deshaun Watson 2 weeks from now says, I want to go to Denver, you can make that deal still. There's nothing precluding you from doing that. And now you honestly have a chip that can replace a first or second round pick in that deal. So instead of 3 firsts and 3 seconds, it's 3 firsts and 2 seconds in Matthew Stafford. And now you have Deshaun Watson, and it was fun. It was a fun experience.
We'll always remember the Matthew Stafford era in Denver, and thank him for helping us get Deshaun Watson. And Ryan, you're absolutely right. You said something huge in there. You said you can't include the first round pick in the Matthew Stafford deal, because right now that's your most valuable chip in trading for either Deshaun Watson or Matthew Stafford. If you don't have that 9th overall pick, next year's first is not as valuable as the 9th overall pick this year. So that's the key. If you trade 2 seconds or a second and Drew Lock and another pick in order to get Matthew Stafford, you can be in on Deshaun Watson, which is just crazy to say and to think about what that could be like. But here's the kicker with it, Ryan, is if you do that, you have to make sure that Matthew Stafford does not find out that you were in on a Deshaun Watson deal. Now, it's different with Drew, because Drew hasn't earned that respect yet, of you not looking for anyone else. He hasn't played that well yet. He hasn't earned that. So if you talk to the Lions about Matthew Stafford, Drew finds out, just like you said, it's my job to help the team get better. We didn't get him. We believe in you, Drew. If you get Matthew Stafford, and before he even plays a single snap for you, you're already looking for a potential upgrade at that position. And he finds out that could be rough, and that's not something you want to do. So you have to be very stealth mode. And you probably set it up right, Ryan, is it would more so be Deshaun Watson saying, hey, Denver, why haven't you given me a call? I want to talk to you. I want to come to Denver. And then you're like, you just reached out to me? That means that we can get something going and we can bring you here.
Right. You know, if Matthew Stafford reads your texts while you're in the shower and sees that you've been texting with Deshaun, you could say, look at the first text.
Right.
I'm not going to be rude and ignore them. I just, I responded to the text out of respect. But yeah, you have to be careful with that. That would be colossally bad if for some reason you acquired Matthew Stafford and ruined your relationship with him and didn't get Deshaun Watson. That's something that you just can't afford to happen.
Especially for George Payton, this being his first, month on the job. That's not the way he would want to start off. But it is exciting thinking about getting Matthew Stafford, and that doesn't completely exclude you from the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. And Ryan, just like we're talking about with Drew, we haven't 100% given up on Drew, but it's about looking for an upgrade. Matthew Stafford, an upgrade. Drew last year, one of the bottom few quarterbacks in the league. Matthew Stafford, an average quarterback, right around 14. Huge upgrade there. Deshaun Watson, top 5, another huge upgrade there. So, I mean, you just keep moving up, and hey, maybe the Chiefs say, what are the Broncos doing? Let's just see if they'll trade for Patrick Mahomes. And then boom, you make another upgrade.
Yeah, exactly. Just it's like that. Remember that trend? I think it was like when we were in high school or maybe a little before it, where you tried to like take a paper clip and trade it. Did you ever do that?
No, what?
So
this sounds like a huge thing that the cool kids did in high school.
I think it's like I think there might have actually been a documentary that came out about it. But maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe just some good YouTube videos. There's like a game that you could play where you take a paper clip door to door. So you go to like next door. This was when you're still allowed to interact with strangers, and you just said like, "Hey, I have this paper clip. Would you trade me something for it?" And someone's like, "Oh, sure, yeah, I'll trade you this hand sanitizer." And then you take that, and you're like, "Okay, cool." Then you go to the next door, and you're like, "Hey, would you trade? Is there anything you'd be willing to trade for this hand sanitizer?" You try to trade up, and up. I think there was like some crazy story about how someone eventually like got a house out of it.
Wow.
But I think that's that might be a fable, but yeah, I did it once.
What'd you get? Was there a big prize? Was there Patrick Mahomes at the end of the line?
I think we ended up with like a football.
Okay, well, hey, that's good.
It's like when the stock gets high enough, you're like, yeah, I'll sell it here. We're like, we have this football now, we can go throw it around at the park.
Just like when GameStop hits like 250, you're selling it.
Right. Well, we're not giving out financial advice. I do that on DNVR bets 4 o'clock.
That's true.
So anyways, yeah, I mean, all that scenario, very unlikely. The trade for Matthew Stafford, I think it's pretty likely. And I think it's better than 5-1. So I guess there's my financial advice.
I agree.
And so it could happen. Zach, the headline here is, how soon could it happen? Could it happen as soon as today? I mean, in a expedited world?
Yep, it absolutely could. Ryan, the news broke, I believe, Saturday about Matthew Stafford parting ways with the Lions, and the Lions had already got multiple calls by the end of the weekend. There's no reason, again, why the Lions would sit on their hands unless they want to collect, everyone's offer and then make the best decision after that. But that's what they've been doing these past couple of days. So this is something that could absolutely happen today. In fact, my watch just buzzed. I had to make sure that wasn't the trade going down, and it could happen, up to Friday. I do think maybe you'll be safe on the golf course Saturday and Sunday, but this is something that's you're shaking your head. This is something that's going to be done, I believe, in the next 10 days at most.
Yeah, actually, maybe I'll send this to Kale. Our guy, The Count, actually a chart about this morning. Kale sending it away right now. He actually did some research on when this trade could go down and made a chart. So, Kale, it's in your
Wow, the
Slack.
count coming up huge.
Yeah, did some market research and really dove into when this trade could go down. And we'll bring it up here in a second. But you said I'd be safe on the golf course, and just don't know. I just don't know if that's going to be the case.
And here we go. Here's the, oh, wow, this does look scientific.
So the y-axis says Ryan Koenigsberg. I forget, person, I don't know what it says, but vacation 1 through 10 is on the y-axis, and Broncos roster moves 0 through 10 is on the x-axis. And as you can see, as my vacation goes up, so does the likelihood of Broncos roster moves, with, of course, the top tier there in the corner being quarterback trade.
Of course. So what's the peak of your vacation? Is it that golf course time?
I was thinking, what is the peak of my vacation? And I was thinking it's, 13th hole, buzz in full force, just basking in the sun, a little bit tired, just fully entrenched, and then boom, Broncos trade for Matthew Stafford.
Oh man, that is really catching you at the wrong time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, Zach, you're gonna have to handle this, my guy.
Well, I'll be on weekend watch, that's for sure. And Ryan, I do think that there's one thing about this trade that we haven't talked about the details yet. So we've heard from Peter King 2 seconds or 2 seconds or 1 second, and Drew. I don't think that's what would happen if Drew is included in this trade. Right now, I don't think Drew has a second round value because he was a second rounder when he came out. And I don't think he's raised that bar yet. Now, I don't think he's like a 7th round pick, but I could see something where instead of 2 second rounders, it's a second rounder, Drew, and a 3rd or a 4th or something like that. And to me, I mean, that's fine. Either do that, do 2 second rounders. If you're not giving up the 9th overall pick, I'm fine with any trade. And in fact, I'm fine with the 9th overall pick too.
You're fine. So that was going to be my kind of last question here. The Colts have offered their 1st round pick and maybe one other asset for Matthew Stafford. You obviously have the higher 1st round pick. You're putting it up?
I'm putting it up. And of course, what you try to do right now is you go on a frenzy to try to trade back to 15 or something. That would be the smart move, the wise move. Trade just 1 spot ahead of the Colts if you can do that and pick up an additional 2nd round pick. But if you can't do that, I'm fine with number 9 being given away. And it comes down to what we talked about this week, Ryan, is would you rather have a stud cornerback or linebacker for 10 years? And that's a type of player you can get at 9. Or a Kyle Pitts, a stud tight end at number 9? Or would you rather have just a huge jump in quarterback play for the next 5 years with that with that 9th overall pick? And to me, it's easy. And here's the thing is Matthew Stafford may not be the answer. When I say the answer, I mean like competing for Super Bowls. And I can't believe that I'm arguing for a quarterback move that doesn't get you to that level or doesn't make you feel really comfortable about that level. But Ryan, just where the Broncos are, they need that middle step. And Matthew Stafford has really never had great teams around him in Detroit. So I don't think that he can't win a Super Bowl, but obviously it's not like you're getting Patrick Mahomes here where you automatically say you are competing for a Super Bowl. But man, he's 32 right now. You get him for at least 5 more years at the most important position in sports. That's why I do the deal. Am I crazy?
Oh, God, no. Your logic perfectly adds up. And so as much as I want to say, like, I wouldn't do it, it's really hard to argue against relevance. Like, that's really what this conversation comes down to, is the Broncos have been irrelevant for 5 years. Obviously, they'll never be irrelevant in this town. But on a national scale, I guess they were in the playoff hunt the year after. So 4 years of true irrelevance. And as a franchise, it probably isn't fun to think like we have to make a move just to get relevant again. But I think you're right in that there has to be a step forward in one way or another. And again, there's a lot of people talking about Drew Lock in the comments. I'm not out on Drew Lock. And if this all falls apart and the Broncos end up going forward with Drew Lock, I'm not going to say like, oh man, they really screwed this up. They messed up. Like, I think Drew Lock still has potential. I think he still can be the guy. But if you're given an opportunity as a franchise, I'm trying to put myself in their shoes right now, to get back to relevance with one move, which I do believe a trade for Matthew Stafford will do for you, then I think you might have to make it. So while I might have a hard time doing that deal, I think the Broncos internally might just have to say, guys, this is a move that can help us get to the next step. And how do we ever get to the final step if we don't get to the next step? And maybe it sets you, maybe, it falls apart. It's not a no risk move for sure. Because Matthew Stafford wasn't great this last year, hasn't been great, but obviously he's been there, done that. And it's not like his arm is deteriorating or anything like that. He's just in a really bad situation in Detroit. So it's not a risk-free proposition. But I do think as a franchise, they might look themselves in the mirror and say, okay, this is how we get back to competing. And then we'll figure it out after that. And it's not a fair comparison to compare anything ever to the Chiefs because their meteoric rise is incomparable. But you can point to them and say, okay, look, they got Alex Smith. They got back to relevance. They were able to build a good football team. And then they added an extremely young and talented quarterback to a good football team, and boom, they skyrocketed like GameStop stock. So it's not. I think you do have to do it in the end. Push comes to shove. You say, let's get back to relevance and figure it out from there.
And Ryan, this is a move that George Paton could want to make for himself too, because the Broncos could go from 5-11, missing the playoffs for 5 straight years. Under his first year as a general manager, Broncos make the playoffs. Broncos have a winning record. This is something that could instantly get you to that relevance. And Ryan, it's like we talked about earlier in the week as well. This Broncos team is fortunately good enough where if they get good play from the quarterback, they could take that big step and go from 5-11 to 10-6 in 1 year pretty easily, in my opinion. Unfortunately, this team is too good to tank and to fall off the wagon so much that they get the number 1 overall pick next year and then easily have that quarterback position figured out. They could very well be in the same spot with bad quarterback play this coming year that they are right now, where we're talking about, okay, what do they do? Do they really tank, which they probably can't do? Do they go after a quarterback? So we're just probably going to be in this position for a long time, and it's not going to be an easy fix, and this is a step in the right direction, in my opinion.
Yeah, and in the comments, they say, if that's the case, why not go for Watson? You should. I mean, you should. But it just doesn't seem likely that Deshaun Watson is going to be a Bronco. And Mr. Bernardi here says, how do the Broncos draft the guy if Stafford is here and we're drafting 15 or worse every year? Same way the Chiefs did it. Yep. Trade up. You got a guy, go get him.
Yep. And remember, Patrick Mahomes was not the first overall pick. Chiefs went from mid-20s to I believe 10, right? Yep. So right where the Broncos are. And that's where my biggest hesitation comes in with this trade, is if you identify someone that you don't believe is going number 1 overall in this draft, obviously someone other than Trevor Lawrence, and you say, that is my quarterback of the future, I love him, then obviously you don't make the trade for Matthew Stafford. You go and get him, whether he's at 9 this year or whether you trade a first-round pick to get him up to 4 or something. That's the time that I'm not okay with trading for Stafford. And we lost Ryan there. But that'll do it for us today on this DNVR Broncos podcast live. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We're going to jump into the podcast section, so make sure to follow us anywhere that podcasts are released at DNVR Broncos, and we will continue into the comment section right now. For everyone tuning in live, thanks so much for joining us. We will talk to you tomorrow.